If you would have asked me, what if what you avoid is what controls you? Hey, y'all, and welcome back to If You Would Have Asked Me, a podcast where we're going to get real about life, growth, and everything in between. Today's episode is a big one that might feel uncomfortable at times, but that's kind of the point. We're talking about shadow work and how what you avoid ends up controlling you. And if you've never heard of shadow work before, let me break it down for you. The process of shadow work is basically looking at the parts of yourself that you keep in the dark. So the bad habits, the toxic cycles, the limiting mindsets that don't serve you yet somehow show up in your everyday life. And it's about digging deep into those past experiences and your trauma and subconscious beliefs to understand how they shape your mind and thoughts and actions and relationships today. So, shadow work isn't just about healing, it's about taking back control. And it's about understanding that what you ignore doesn't go away. And they sit beneath the surface, influencing your choices, your fears, your reactions, and they start to shape the way that you see yourself and the way that you show up for yourself in the world. And so I do just want to throw in my short little disclaimer to just let everybody know I am not a professional. I did not gain any of this information in a lab, in a classroom. I didn't read any self-help books. Everything that I talk about on this podcast is just straight from personal experience and the lessons that I've learned throughout my life and moments of clarity that I've experienced. So I started my own personal journey with shadow work in May of 2022. And I don't want y'all to think that it's like a super easy pass because when I started off, it was very fucking messy. And at first I didn't even realize what I was doing. Like I really just thought I was like just trying to break certain bad habits. And the deeper I went, the more I realized that all of these patterns were connected. And more importantly, they all had roots that had like that were deeply seated in experiences and emotions that I've never fully processed. It's literally like having a closet in your mind, and in that closet is kind of like a hoarder's closet, and then you ask your childhood self to be like, hey, can you just help me with this closet? And then like your childhood self is looking at you and they're like, I can see what I can do. And they step in the closet and you close the door behind them. And then you're like, okay, thank you. Let me know when it's done. And your childhood self is like, there's a lot of shit in here. I think I'm just going to sit down. And at one point, like when I was looking through, or not even like looking through my own closet, but like there was like a point in time like where my dad had like just brought up the way that I had like the way that I navigate myself like with other people. He's like, I don't know like why you do that. And I was like, I don't know either. And so I started to think about that a lot, and that's kind of when I understood that you can't really change what you don't acknowledge. And like I wanted to do better, and there's a specific person that I want to be. So in order for me to be that person, I need to understand what needs to change within who I believe myself to be. And so today we're going to talk about how to start shadow work, and what it really means to like dive deeply into yourself, and why avoiding your shadows and your darkness only gives your shadows and your darkness more power. And so if you're ready to go deeper, let's get into it. And so if you're ready to go deeper, let's get into it. All right. Now I do want to bring up like a really important point when you're working through stuff like this, or just for the people to like have a thought to chew on. So basically, there's two types of people that you're going to be when it comes to negativity. You're either going to be the type of person who's been through or has experienced a lot or more than what you've ever expected, and you want to be this specific person that you have in your mind, so you do everything in your power to be this person. And you feel as though you're constantly growing, and that sometimes you find yourself repeating habits and just toxic cycles that don't serve you anymore because you're no longer in a place of survival that you were when you initially created this habit. And then the other person that you're going to be is the person who is stuck in cycles and is either aware yourself or has been told by other people that they are consistently doing something that is like dimming their own light, and they're just like, no, I'm not, you're delusional, okay, whatever, like, stop talking to me, like, that's ridiculous, why would you ever say that about me, like, and then you just get deeper, more deeply rooted in your cycles. And that it, like, and I only say that because I was that person. Like, people would say shit about me and I'd be like, no, like, that's not who I am. And the only reason I would be like that is because and sometimes like obviously they were wrong, but in other times when people were right, like I like would think about it later on that night and I'd be like, damn, like I was only upset because they were right. And that's just like, I don't want to be the person that they said I was. So like, what should I do to not be the person that they said I was? Because I actually didn't agree with that. And sometimes people are going to say things that you don't agree with, but sometimes like people are going to say things that you do agree with, and that you're like, okay, like that's kind of like sucks to know that I'm like that, but like, you know what? I'm going to start changing. And once like you can decipher what kind of person you are in that sense, then you can start to do more to move through and move on. Not move on, because you'll never move on from the things that you've experienced, because at the end of the day, what sticks with you is what sticks with you. And if you can just let it out of your mind, then awesome, like that's great for you. But if like it just sits with you on a day-to-day basis and you're constantly struggling with it, like you have to start to understand where these are coming from, so that way you can start growing as a person, if that is where you are at in your life. Sometimes you have a couple more lessons to learn by repeating those cycles. It happens. We're people. Lifing is hard. So, and I know shadow work sounds really intense, and at its core, it really is just about self-awareness. It's about recognizing the parts of yourself that you've pushed aside, and maybe because, like, maybe you pushed them aside because they were too painful, or because they were uncomfortable, or like you just didn't want to deal with them at the time. And it might help to kind of just think of it like this. So, like, imagine you're carrying a backpack, and over the years, you've just been stuffing this backpack with every negative experience, every insecurity, every fear, every toxic belief that you've ever picked up. And instead of unpacking it, you just keep carrying it, and it gets heavier and heavier, and at some point, it starts weighing you down, and it starts to affect how much, like, how you move through life. And basically, shadow work is the process of opening that backpack and pulling out the pieces and asking, where did this come from? And do I still need to carry this? And how is this shaping my life today? It's being consciously aware with yourself of how you're behaving, even if it's after you've already reacted. Like, you don't always have to be in the moment. I know, like, we all want to be in the moment. We all want to be at like a level of comfort with ourselves that we can be like, oh, everything I do in the moment is what I say and mean. But at the end of the day, I feel like we all think about some things that we do later and we're like, damn, I shouldn't have done that. Like, that was probably really disrespectful or really wrong of me. And I probably should have just like reacted this way. But like, that would have been more my most authentic self. But instead, I was like, I'm gonna swerve and deny myself the access of being okay with how I behaved. And so I know like dealing with stuff like this is hard and it's uncomfortable, but it's kind of necessary if you want to break free from your old cycles and truly grow. Everyone has a shadow side. No one is ever going to be free from it. Everyone has their own version of darkness. It doesn't matter like what experiences you go through in life. There are going to be things that you feel are a trauma or things that have just affected you so deeply that like shape your beliefs from this, like from the moment that you were born, like to now, like the moment that you have like a conscious mind inside the womb, like you are like then full, like starting to build habits as a soul and a person. You're starting to be more aware of what's happening to you as like in a soul purpose. Like, once you have a mind, your soul is also attached to it. The mind lasts forever. So basically, your shadow work is going to show up in many different ways. Like not your shadow work, your shadows are going to show up in many different ways. They're going to be repeating the same toxic relationship over and over and over again, avoiding confrontation, even when it means betraying yourself, sabotaging good things because deep down you don't believe that you deserve them, or even numbing yourself with distractions like social media, food, alcohol, or even just trying to stay busy enough to think. And like lastly, it's just straight up struggling with your self-worth and consistently seeking validation from others. And if any of that sounded familiar, which like it did for me, so like don't feel bad if it did for you, because we all go through a lot of crap, like just by experiencing another situation with a human. Like sometimes it's just painful, especially if you're an emotional person, which I understand because that's me. Um, but if any of that sounded familiar, that's literally your shadows talking. That's saying, hey, I'm here. Recognize me. They're kind of like, take me out of the closet, sell me, give me away, do anything else but leave me in here. This is crazy. I have a child in here and she won't stop crying. And this, like, the scariest part of all of this is that if you really don't choose to acknowledge it, if you don't allow your subconscious mind to actually function into something that can help you and let it continue cycles that make you feel low about yourself, like they're not going to go away. They're literally just going to keep running in the background without change. And they're going to control all of your actions and your decisions, and you're not even going to realize it. And so when I first started doing shadow work, I thought I literally thought I was trying to fix bad habits. Like like I said, like I like would, my dad would like call me out for shit, and like I would get really upset with him because it really hurt my feelings, but like it hurt my feelings because it was true and I needed to change. Because like then I like would be like, I don't like that. And like at one point I was like, you know what? Then be somebody that you like. Like start doing that. And like whatever doesn't come along with you, like doesn't belong there, because you know that your dad would not be calling you out right now if you were in the right or were choosing to behave in a reasonable way in the situation. And like another thing is like I also used to try to over explain myself all the time. Every decision I made, I felt like I had to justify it, even when like not one singular person asked. Like someone could go dead silent and I could be like, oh, well, and just over explain my whole entire situation. Like this person either like cared or even wanted to know. And I felt like, or at first I thought, oh, like I just need to make sure that people understand me. And when I went deeper into that, like I realized that this just came from my childhood and constantly trying to get people to understand what I was trying to say in my situations, and for constantly like overworking my mind, because I would be trying to talk to adults and they would be giving me nothing, and I'd be like, okay, but like what if I said this? Like, do I really need to go deeper into the situation? So I would ask even bigger questions with bigger words, and they'd either be like, you don't need to answer for that, or they would just give me like the crappiest answer that they could come up with. And I don't know, I just always felt like I had to over explain myself for people to even want to like accept me, and for me to even feel heard and good enough in situations. Like that was like how that reflected on me throughout the rest of my life. Okay, so shadow work also just kind of forces you to ask yourself questions like, why do I do this? And where does this come from? And once you have that awareness, you can start making different choices. But it all starts with allowing your subconscious and conscious mind to work together at the same time. And so, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, I want to start working on my shadows, but I have no idea where to start, here's like a few things that you can try just to see like if you can start to get some gears, flowing. And it might not be anything. It's not going to be like a huge difference overnight, but it's going to be enough to make you want to keep going. And as long as you decide and choose to stay disciplined about a situation, you will further. You will, there is no doubt that you won't further yourself in that situation. And so the first thing that you can start doing is recognizing your patterns, and start by paying attention to your reactions. And when something upsets you or frustrates you or just makes you anxious, and pause and ask yourself, why does this bother me so much? Is this reaction about the present moment, or is it just connected to something deeper? Sorry, I got a new tattoo. That's why I was feeling this, because I was like, ugh, tattoo. If you're watching on YouTube, that mattered. If you aren't, then I'm sorry. But when something upsets you and something frustrates you and it makes you anxious, ask yourself, and oh my god, okay, let me kick my ass. Alright, fuck. I need to stop itching that. That's a dumb idea. I'm so sorry. But ask yourself, why does this bother me so much? And is this a reaction about the present moment, or is it just connected to something deeper? And have I ever felt this way before? If so, when? And are there similarities in the way that the people around me are acting, or are there similarities in the way that I'm feeling in this time? And your triggers are often connected to unresolved wounds, just things from your past that you just haven't dealt with because you just didn't have the time, or like you didn't want to. Simply, literally, it can be so simple. It's for the fact that you just didn't want to. And write it down if you want. You don't always have to write everything down. I always say write things down. I don't think I always say write things down, but you can write things down. You can take like a deep meditation, even if that's just driving in your car with music, but allowing yourself to think at the same time. Like, just give yourself the time to allow yourself to think more than just in the moment, but rather like about the future or the past, just deeper within the things that affected you, and not in like a dwelling on your past kind of way, but in a working on your past kind of way. And so when you're like going through these like journal, meditation, drive, whatever you are doing to get yourself centered into a place that you can actually start thinking about the things that you've been through and processing them and how they affect you in your day-to-day life, you can ask yourself questions like, what habits or behaviors do I keep repeating that don't serve me? And what am I most afraid of people knowing about me? Or what insecurities control my decisions? And like, this is just like, if nothing else gets your gears turning, try and give yourself the opportunity to really think about something like that and see how far in your mind you can allow yourself. And then if you can't allow yourself in your mind, think about what block may be stopping you from thinking this deeply into your mind. And just thinking about them, it forces you to face your thoughts instead of like letting them run, giving your thoughts intention, I should say, instead of letting them run wild in your mind, allows you to feel more in control. And it gives you more control when you give yourself intention to heal instead of saying that you're going to heal and then doing things that aren't healing. And so you can start sitting with those feelings. The next thing that you like, the next thing or another thing that you can try, depending on what type of person you are, is just understand that shadow work isn't about fixing yourself overnight. It's about sitting with your emotions and understanding them and giving yourself the grace to work through them and allowing yourself the compassion to understand that there are things that you've been through that affect the way that you love and the way that you react and the way that you feel around specific people to this day. And it's okay to feel uncomfortable, and it's okay to not have all the answers. And it's just important that you don't ignore that you are healing no matter what. Either way, like even if like you happen to repeat a cycle again, and this time you just noticed that you repeated a cycle, that's growth. It might not be a mile, it might be a quarter of a mile, but guess what? It's better than still at the start line. You can't get nowhere if you're still at the start line. It's just really important for you to understand that you have to sit and understand and feel each and every single one of your emotions. Deeply understand who you are. Allow yourself to get to know you the way that you would want a significant other to want to know you. Dig that deeply so that way when someone does come to the forefront, or when like friendship, family member, relationship, coworker, boss, when someone does come to you, you can step in as your most authentic self without making them feel disrespected or unempowered. Like you can still just be like, yeah, no, like this is how I feel, and like I personally like the way that like my beliefs are, like I just can't do that. Like I'm sorry. Like, or like this is how I am. Like I'm not going to change the way that I'm acting for you, unfortunately. If there are consequences for that, I will deal with them. I understand, but I'm not going to not be myself out of fear of a consequence. And another thing you can just do in any situation is just be patient with yourself and understand that this isn't like a one thing at a time, or this isn't just a one time thing. Sorry, I don't know why I messed that up. This isn't just a one time thing, it's a lifelong process. Some days you're going to feel like you've made a million-mile progress, and then the next day you're going to think that you made a quarter of a mile progress. And sometimes you're going to feel stuck, and sometimes you're going to feel liberated, and that's normal. The key is to just keep going. Even if keeping going is like when you're laying in your, like, you've been doing so well, and then there's like a couple days where you've just been stuck in bed, but like, okay, after a couple days, you're like, okay, I've been stuck in bed, but like, I think I've just needed rest. Allowing yourself that rest is growing. That is okay. You are allowed to rest. Sometimes you are forced to rest because you don't give yourself the room to. All right. So here's what I want you to take from this episode. The things that you avoid don't just disappear. And all they do is just control your shadows. Or, let me redo that. The things you avoid don't just disappear. They just control you from the shadows. And the moment that you turn and face them is when you take your power back. Shadow work isn't about perfection, and it's not about fixing yourself. It's about understanding yourself on the deepest level and making peace with all the parts of who you are. And trust me, the more that you do this, and the more that you allow yourself the compassion to just heal from what you've experienced in your life, no matter what your pain is, no matter who you choose to compare it to, like, you'll start to feel lighter, and you'll start to be more in control. And the more you start living as your true self and not the version of you that's weighed down by unhealed wounds, you start to accept all of who you are for what you are in every moment and all the time, and you start doing that for other people as well. And you start to grow and heal every time you interact with a human. And if you've been avoiding your shadows, maybe this is your sign to finally turn around and face it. We are a lot more than everything that we have ever been through as people. And sometimes it's hard to accept that it's okay to be a happy person and to love yourself and to grow from the things that you've been through while still being a happy person. And sometimes the things that you've went through and the experiences that you've had that have built up that your current mindset and habits and behaviors are open for change as long as you consciously allow yourself the room to grow. If you don't consciously allow yourself that room to grow, then you're going to stay in that same place. But you have to be aware that growth is your goal. And it doesn't mean that you are changing yourself overnight or changing who you are at all. It just means that in your mind, there are things that you need to heal within yourself. And then give yourself the room to start healing. All right, guys, that's it for today's episode. And If this episode resonated with you, let me know. Drop a comment, send a message, share your thoughts. I always want you to feel safe and like this is a place where you can fully express yourself while still being gentle to other people. And I don't mean that in like a like say whatever you want. Like I'm saying like don't like attack somebody else ever in my comments or my like text messages. If you're going through a situation with a person or it's the situation is part of what you're going through, I completely understand that and go ahead and express that. But don't be like this stupider, because that's just not nice and not fair, and I'm not gonna deal with it. But yeah, feel free. I want like, and the only reason I don't want people to do that is because I don't want people to not feel like this is a safe place to come and express themselves. I want people to be able to drop short stories in the freaking comment section because they just have that much to say about a certain situation that's going on in their life. I used to get shit on so hard by people for just typing out a long ass paragraph to explain myself because that was just everything that went on my mind and I was okay with sharing it. Like this was what I wanted to emote. So feel free to let it all out in the comment section, whatever you feel you need to. If you can't find any other outlet, let the comment section be that. Let my DMs be that. If you want everyone to see it and you want the war and like you want it to be set free, whatever, like put it out in the comments. If you want to have a conversation about it, text me. I might take a day or two to respond, but that's just because I have my notifications off and I sincerely apologize. I'm actually not sorry. I like my notifications off. But feel free to express yourself and give yourself that room to grow. And remember that this is your journey too. And so if you're going to start doing some shadow work or you're doing shadow work already right now, keep going, keep asking yourself hard questions, keep pushing through tough cycles and bad habits and giving yourself the room to grow as a person and change and keep choosing yourself. Until next time, stay real, stay strong, and stay you. Later, guys.